Alright guys, welcome back, 1776 or Bust. So today we're actually going to be doing a revisiting video. This is a gun that I haven't actually shot in probably about a year. And I'm kind of embarrassed to say that because it is actually one of my original best guns that I've ever owned. It's the Walther PPQ M2. Now this gun has so many great benefits and so many great uses that, for some reason, the reason why I can only say that I didn't really go back to this gun in quite a while was because there were so many great offerings out there anyway. Obviously, the PPQ has the Apex trigger that I installed on it. It is just a phenomenal gun. I was really glad that I went and I took this gun out. I put about 200 rounds through it. Pretty much the same day I was shooting actually the PPS M2 RMSC, and I have to say that this gun performed once again as well as I could ever have imagined. Even though I have not shot this in about a year, I have to say that it also, in my opinion, was still a great, easy gun to use. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of people will always debate the fact that the PPQ has a lot of snappiness to it, even though it's a 9mm. A lot of people will always say it's because of the height of the slide. I'm not exactly sure if I buy into that. I think if you actually just work on your grip and how you apply the way you shoot this gun, I think this gun is as effective as any gun out there, if not even slightly better. The trigger pull on this thing is phenomenal, even without the Apex trigger. But overall, the PPQ has never disappointed. Through brass, steel, aluminum, it has taken everything and it has spit everything back out. And I have nothing but great things to say about the PPQ. Again, glad I took this thing out because I am going to be putting this back in the carry rotation very, very soon. So let's look at some shooting and then we'll go to the table and we'll talk a little bit more about the PPQ. All right, so what you're going to see here is me shooting this gun for really the first time in a year. And the reason why I said it was kind of embarrassing is because when you have a gun as good as the Walther PPQ, there really is no excuse to actually not be shooting this gun a little bit more often. Initially when I started shooting the gun, it did take some practice. I'm not going to lie to you. It definitely is different feeling in regards to its recoil. Again, I would say that it is not unmanageable recoil. A lot of people will say it's more snappy than some of their other handguns that they own. And while it may have a little bit more snap, I still do not believe that this gun is unmanageable in any way, shape, or form. As I pull the target back in closer, what you're going to see are the first initial, I think this is about 30 rounds. Might be less than that. I think maybe 25. I can't remember what it was, to be honest with you. And then it kind of breaks away. So that was actually my first 20 rounds. And then this is an additional 10 rounds. And again, the groupings start to get a little bit better as I get better shooting this handgun, but it's like anything else. When you start shooting your handgun and you kind of put it away and you don't use it for a while, to think that you're going to come back automatic in regards to hitting bullseyes or whatever it is that you're aiming for, I find it hard to believe. I mean, I'm not that good of a shooter if that's the case. But as I bring the target back here after 30 rounds or so, you can see that the red is starting to disappear slowly. There are not too many flyers in regards to this gun at all. And I have to say that for me, the Walther PPQ has always proven to be an extremely effective handgun. It has proven to be an extremely accurate handgun. More importantly, it's been extremely reliable. Now with this, what you're seeing here is approximately another 20 rounds that I shot through this. And as the target comes back to you, what you're going to see is that that red begins to even have a bigger hole being pushed through it. Again, a little more adjustment is needed for the sight picture. It wasn't exactly on where I wanted to be in the middle. Obviously shooting a little bit high, a little bit left, but nonetheless, still a pretty solid target. My last scene that I'm going to show you here in regards to this footage, what you're going to see here is really just the culmination of a fantastic gun and having a lot of success with it that day shooting. Again, these targets are about 7 yards out. 7 to 10 yards is where I tend to shoot. Unfortunately, I don't have any place to shoot steel, but I don't mind shooting paper, guys, because paper is not going to lie. I could sit here and easily just shoot steel and have that camera fixated on me and never show you what I'm shooting at. But at the end of the day, when I pull this target back, I'm extremely happy with what I'm seeing, and I think you know why. All right, guys, welcome back to the table, and here you see the Walther PPQ in all of its glory. So ultimately, I think what happens when people get so many different options and opportunities to shoot handguns, you kind of forget about the guns that at one time probably worked so well that it was actually kind of crazy. And what I mean by that is that this gun has never once let me down. It is one of the few guns out there, I think, that can be completely flawless in so many different ways. Ergonomically, the gun has always been very good. I don't think anybody who could ever, hold on to a PPQ. If I could, that'd be great. would say that the ergonomics are terrible. For me, there are a lot of great feelings with this gun. Once you put it in your hand, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Obviously, people will compare this to a VP9. They look very, very similar. Obviously, I think H&K took definitely some cues from this gun and then improved a little bit, especially with slide height, that type of stuff. But in regards to something like the VP9, the VP9 for me just never felt right in the hand. It's a little bit too much of a big lump back here for my hand. And the PPQ has always been just right. And even with the support hand as it goes across and you apply that pressure, it just works so well. Now, obviously, there are some things about this gun that I think are a little bit on the downside in regards to just small things that I definitely could see changing in the future. And really, it's what I'm hoping for at some point. So in regards to the PPQ, one of the things that I definitely think needs to change is the amount of polymer they're using back there. I think they could thin this out a little bit more. Some people complain that this kind of hits their knuckle here on the side. I've never had that problem per se, but I definitely think if they were to thin this out, you could actually get a little bit more of this slide riding into your hand, a little bit lower. Although, as you can see, it is fairly low in my hand. So in regards to that argument about the bore axis, I don't really think that is a feasible argument, so to speak. Now, some may say that's not true. Some may agree, whatever. Again, I'm just telling you what I've seen with this gun with my experiences over 4,000 plus rounds. And again, I've never had an issue with it, and I shoot it fairly well. I'm not going to say I'm an expert marksman, but at the same time, I definitely feel very confident behind this gun. Now, again, looking at the handgun, one of the things that you'll also notice is a very positive magazine release. I think that's always a great feature to have. And it's one of the very few guns that you never have to worry about this magazine jamming in there. Now, of course, there isn't really any cutouts here. So if you do have a magazine that's stuck in there, it's going to be kind of difficult to get out. I've never experienced that, but I'm sure some have. So that might be a bit of a downside on there. Obviously, if you turn this over in the mag well, you really don't see any cut-ins or cutouts to actually pull that magazine out. So that's kind of one of the downsides. Now, for me, one of the biggest issues that I've always had with this gun is actually riding the slide lock, slide release. So it is a very pronounced slide lock, slide release. You can see it does extend all the way back, and it is ambi, which is very nice. At the same time, though, this is what always poses a problem for me because, again, I tend to ride very high on these handguns, so you can see right where my thumb falls. And a lot of times as I'm pushing pressure down, I do tend to ride that slide release. So as a result, I actually have to mind myself and say, get that thumb a little bit further out there. You're not going to really necessarily lose any control over the handgun, so to speak. But at the same time, that's just something that I have to do. If not, a lot of times it will not lock back. And as a result, that can always be a problem, especially if you don't really like the way that works. Obviously, you can see here, not a surprise, I did put an Apex trigger in here. Guys, I love them. I think they're great triggers for me. Obviously, there's multiple options out there, but I have stuck by Apex because I just think they make really good triggers. So after I put this in, there was always a lot of people who were complaining about this video that I made, saying, why would you change the trigger on a PPQ? It's already good to begin with. And I agree. The PPQ trigger is a phenomenal trigger out of the box. However, if you drop this in here, it even becomes more phenomenal. What I mean by that is while you're getting a very, very short take up, and it actually reduces the take up from the original trigger, just the trigger feel, that nice flat-faced trigger feel makes such a difference in control. And again, as I pull that trigger, it's barely noticeable, the movement. I absolutely love it. And then the reset is as short. The only thing that I have to say that I like about the reset on this trigger better is the fact that I feel like it's more controllable. For those of you who have shot the PPQ, you probably know that there's a very positive push on the reset. So as your finger goes forward, there's your initial trigger pull. And as your finger goes forward on that trigger, on the trigger reset, a lot of times there was such a positive push. And because of that hook of the trigger, for me personally, I always felt that was my Achilles heel, so to speak, in regards to the gun, was just having that really positive push to my finger. The Apex kind of solved that because of that flat face. So you no longer have to worry necessarily about that hook capturing your finger and forcing it forward, because now you actually have this very broad feel to a trigger. The trigger safety goes all the way in, and it just makes it easier, in my opinion, to control that reset. And that's where I think that trigger had a huge positive impact in regards to this handgun. Again, overall, the PPQ has always been an easy gun. Even to take apart, it is super easy. You don't have to pull any triggers. Obviously, you can see I have a DPM systems guide rod and recoil spring in here. It's just, I love the system. I think it works. Again, it's just about preference. Overall, this gun has been nothing but flawless. I have to say that shooting 200 rounds through it was a joy, and it really made me realize just how lucky we are to have had this gun brought out to us by Walther. Now, obviously, again, are there some minor improvements, some minor adjustments that should be done with this gun? Again, I don't know. I'm not a designer of handguns, and I'm not an engineer. However, I am a fan of this gun. And if there were some simple things that I could change, one would absolutely be this getting thinned out a little bit here in the polymer. More importantly, getting your hand to drive a little bit further in, and to see if we can get this slide to be cut down a little bit more so that's a little bit lower into your hand as well. Honestly, guys, if Walther would do that, this gun would still be on everybody's radar. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, people don't. And I think it's just because we've had so many good options, and there's nothing wrong with having good options. You guys know that I appreciate having tons of options for handguns. For me, one of the guns that I absolutely love is obviously this one here, which is my CZP-10C. Love this gun. As a matter of fact, I'm still not decided if I'm actually going to be getting a P10S or P10F or anything, because I really like this gun. I feel like this gun is kind of the Goldilocks of both, and this may be just the one I stay with without investing any more money into anything else. Again, the 19X was also a very good entry this year for me. Or I should say last year. Really enjoyed this gun. It's just a really fantastic shooter. It feels really good ergonomically in the hand, and I've had nothing but fun with this gun. I have to be honest with you guys. It's shot great, and I've had no issues. And interestingly enough, just so you guys know, I wanted to show you something. For those of you who don't think this 19X is carryable, I do carry this PPQ, or at least I used to, quite a bit. And you can see that this 19X is just a slight amount of extension underneath here. And really, it comes from this magazine cover or bottom or cap or whatever you want to call it, plate. And obviously this little hook here. So, I mean, really, honestly, if you're carrying the PPQ, I think you could probably get away carrying this 19X. And it feels just as good, not going to lie. Again, Steyr M9. You guys know I love this gun. This gun's fantastic. Ergonomically, it's great. When I first invested in the PPQ, this was my go-to all-around awesome gun. And then once I got the Steyr, it kind of, unfortunately went by the wayside, because this became my all-too great, fantastic handgun that I love shooting so much, and I still do. It's just a great gun. So overall, both really awesome handguns. Obviously, the Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 Compact took the market by storm and then kind of vanished a little bit. A lot of people, I think, are still a little iffy on this handgun. I'm not exactly sure why. And to me, this is, once again, just a fantastic offering from Smith. And it really kind of, again, drove the PPQ out. Now, all those guns I showed you, I love them. I can't complain about any of them. However, once I shot this gun again, I realized again why this gun was so good. The trigger is smooth as hell. The recoil, while some may say it's a little bit snappy, honestly, guys, just work on that grip. Maybe actually, thrusting your hands forward a little bit as you're shooting so you can mitigate that recoil a little bit more. But I mean, my God, the trigger's phenomenal. The ergonomics are great. The gun is flawless in every single way in regards to handling ammunition. I have nothing but good to say about this handgun, and I think this is absolutely worth your look, and it's actually worth maybe you adding to your collection. So let me know what you think. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Is the PPQ still worthy? Is the PPQ still a gun that people should turn to? And if you own one, what are your experiences with it? And if you don't own one, why haven't you tried one? Love to hear what you guys have to say. Have a great day. Stay safe. And as always, everyone, freedom is never free.